Hello, and this is Free Light with Ellen Wright. How are you? I hope that you are well and that you're excited for my very first video. Um, I have a question for you first. The first question is, have you ever experienced anger? How about perfectionism? How about jealousy, shame, doubt? How about the feeling of not enoughness? Well, all of those emotions, all of those feelings are natural feelings, and I don't want to take anything away from those feelings. But I know as human beings, we would much rather spend our energy and our time in a place of love, joy, connection, and abundance. And so today we're going to talk about moving from a place of being in scarcity consciousness to abundance consciousness. And that's what Free Light is about. I'm here, I have friends who will be here, who are going to talk about how we can shift from being in scarcity consciousness, which we are surrounded by in our culture, to the emerging new discussions of abundance consciousness. Now, I'm a therapist and I deal a lot with thoughts. I deal a lot with emotions. So I'm going to kind of come at this whole discussion from that viewpoint because there are a number of spiritual teachers out there who I listen to, who I watch, and who I read. And I will share some of those resources with you soon so that you know what some of my personal beliefs are, as well as what other people have said. And so I will use other teachers when I am talking. So this is primarily coming from some of my experiences with my clients, my experiences with friends, my experiences living as a human in this world. And what I've noticed is that scarcity consciousness, first off, let's really define what that means. Scarcity consciousness is all around us. It is this idea that there is not enough, that your religion is better than my religion, the amount of money I have, I can't ever give to you because there's not enough. Scarcity consciousness is basically not enoughness. And it starts with the externals. Maybe your job, maybe your status as a parent, or your status as whether or not you're single or married or whatever. There's a number of different things that externally we put judgments on based on whether or not we feel that there is enough. And so the enoughness that I'm talking about, the abundance consciousness, that is something that is actually relatively new that's being discussed. And I'm talking new in terms of culturally the last 50 years. Because previously we've had a history of people being oppressed. We're still being oppressed today. People are still being oppressed today because the same scarcity consciousness exists. But oppression, violence, all manners and forms of trauma all come from the idea that there's not enough for everyone. So what do we do? I have a number of friends. My parents are educators. My mother is a historian. And I grew up learning all about African American history. And one of the symbols that my mother used when she would do talks or educate people was the Sankofa bird, which is a Adinkra symbol, if you see it, of a bird whose head is turned backwards, looking and trying to get to an egg. And so this discussion, part of what I want to do is talk about the past in order to go back and meaningfully understand and then move forward. I don't feel like the past is a place that you should get stuck in. I don't feel like the past is a place that you should dwell in. I don't think that the past is a place that you should create from. But I think it helps to understand context. I think it helps people to be more aware. And so when I'm talking about scarcity consciousness, some of the things that you may see are, like I mentioned earlier, people who are being oppressed. One group of people denying privileges to others because deep down there is a fear that there's not enough. And as human beings, I don't think that this is a racial problem. I don't think that this is a class problem. I think it's a human issue that human beings feel separated from source, from abundance, from natural well-being. And so when I talk about this, I may use examples of specific racial or class, groups, but really, it's a human thing. No one is immune to scarcity consciousness. We live in a culture that has messages all the time. You are what you buy. You are where you work. You are what you look like. You are how much money you have. And the more you have, the better. And what that really says is that who you are underneath everything is not enough. And so this journey is really about connecting to abundance consciousness. And through abundance consciousness, you learn how to develop self-love. I'll let that sink in. Self-love is what you develop when you are then engaging in abundance consciousness, because everything starts within. So the real trick about scarcity culture is that scarcity culture has taught us that we're not enough. And so the only way that we can actually shift and begin building the new is on focusing on our own self-love, our own awareness, our own love. Because believe it or not, love is all around us. And there's infinite abundance. Infinite. We just have to tune into that. And one of my favorite teachers is Abraham Hicks. And Abraham Hicks, and you can look it up, and I'll put some things in the memo section, the note section, about where to find and be connected to Abraham Hicks' teachings. But basically the idea is that when you're beating the drum of what you don't want, scarcity consciousness, then you are not forming what you do want. You're continuing to focus on the past. Now I say you have to understand the past, but you have to understand it accurately. So I have 4 things that if you work on these things as the start of forming an abundant consciousness, where you are living in joy, where you feel connected to God, source, or even your fellow man, when you feel secure within, where you feel happy, where you feel content and peaceful. That's what I'm talking about. That's self-love. That is coming from a place of abundance consciousness. So I use the words kind of interchangeably. Okay? So you're ready for the 4 things. Okay, first thing is be aware. Be aware. So some of the videos that I'm going to do are going to focus on some of the past thoughts and thought and belief patterns that have been passed down generation through generation through generation of scarcity consciousness that prevent you from being able to step into real self-love. You kind of got to be aware of it. Because if you don't know what some of those messages are, you don't know what they are, you believe that they're true, and you invest in them. So awareness is number one. And really with awareness is being an observer. So you want to observe the thoughts that you have. If you're in a tough situation and you're trying to really understand how to get out of a struggle, you want to observe what you're telling yourself, what your beliefs are, because if you don't do that, you're going to continue to believe them. You're going to continue to think them. And a lot of people say, well, just use positive affirmations. Well, that's good. I love positive affirmations. But sometimes when we've struggled a lot and we're deep into scarcity culture, we really are angry. We're really jealous of what other people have. We're very judgmental of what other people do or how they live their lives. When we're deep in, saying, I am love is great. But if you don't believe that, it's not going to work. So being aware of your thoughts, observing your thoughts is step one. Step two is accepting your emotions. Accepting what comes up when it comes up. If something happens where you're angry, before you behave, before you act out in anger, try to observe the thought. So the observation comes back in. Observe the thought, then observe the feeling. Feelings are like clouds. They come and they go. Feelings are indicators of what your thoughts are. So if you understand that you should just accept the feeling. There's some days where I'm sad, where I'm confused, where I feel like I'm in a tremendous amount of doubt about life. But I accept that that's where I am, and I try to examine the thought behind it. Because by examining the thought, then you can challenge the thought. You can say, oh, I understand why I have that thought. You could do something. Okay, the third thing is to forgive. When you know better, you do better. And so I'm not right now talking about forgiving other people. Forgiving yourself is very important. And a part of understanding and of being aware of the past and understanding where you may have gotten certain belief systems from helps you to forgive. One man said, forgiveness is the final form of love. And that really is true. Because in forgiveness, you kind of let things go. You accept, when I know better, I was able to do better. And I'm just like right now, just talking about yourself. We'll talk about forgiving others later. Okay, and the final thing is be empathetic. Be empathetic, which means you understand the emotion behind something. For me, I've spent a long time in my life not feeling good enough. And because I didn't feel good enough, and because I'm coming out of that now, I would beat myself up, criticize myself, I'd be angry with myself for things that really were not the worst thing in the world. I didn't know better. So be empathetic. So this is the start of the journey. I encourage you to ask questions. I really do. In fact, I really want that to happen, because if you can ask me questions, then I can address those questions. And it's not just me talking. And it's kind of a dialogue between us and a connection. So again, free light is about loving self, about feeling free, feeling light. Light also for me is about love. Feeling that abundance, feeling that love that is all around us. So with that, thank you for watching and have a great day. Be free, be light. Bye-bye.